Your question, sir.
Hi, well, to do with the moral question as well. Premise 2, objective moral values and duties do exist. How do you justify that, in a sense? I mean, I do believe objective moral values exist, but it doesn't seem to me necessarily true. It seems to me equally likely, if I were an atheist, that nihilism is true. In other words, there are no objective moral values.
Yeah.
Everything is just simply socially determined or whatever.
Yes.
As to objective moral values do exist. So how would you convince an atheist that actually no, they really do exist, as opposed to nihilism being true, apart from simply saying, well, that's very unpleasant?
I think that the second premise is necessarily true, but let's distinguish necessity from certainty. That is very important to do. Certainty is a property of persons. Necessity is a property of propositions. And some propositions can be necessary even though they're very uncertain. For example, some complicated mathematical equation will be necessarily true, if true, but we may be very uncertain about it. So the necessity of the second premise and the truth of the second premise doesn't require certainty. What reason would we have to believe that objective moral values and duties exist? Well, basically, it would be our moral experience. Just as we believe in the world of sense objects around us, physical objects, because we have a sense of them through our senses, so we can believe in the objective reality of moral values and duties on the basis of our moral experience. And any argument you run to be skeptical about our moral experience, I can run a parallel argument about why you should be skeptical about our experience of the physical world of objects around us. Maybe you're a brain in a vat of chemicals being stimulated by a scientist to think you're here in this lecture hall listening to this lecture. Maybe you're a body lying in the matrix and you're inhabiting a virtual reality. In the absence of some reason to defeat your experiences, you're justified in believing in what those experiences teach you. And similarly, in the absence of a good defeater of our moral experience, I think we're justified in believing what that experience tells us. Louise Antony is an atheist philosopher who put it so well, I think. This is how she put it. Any argument for moral skepticism is going to be based upon premises which are less obvious than the reality of objective moral values themselves. And therefore, you would never be justified in accepting moral skepticism. I like that, and I think that's correct.
Thank you for the question.